Okay, I would like to welcome Utah State Senator from District 25, Chris Wilson, onto the show. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
You bet, Chase. Well, thanks for the invite. This is exciting, and I appreciate your um, willingness to have me on your show. And I think it's great that you have a podcast. I think that's awesome. So, and like I said, to be in high school and still be interested in the politics and stuff is tremendous. So that's
Yeah,
great.
thank you so much. That means a lot. The first thing I just want to ask of you is if you can take 60 seconds just to introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and all that.
Great. 60 seconds. Cut me off. I'm a politician. I may be long-winded, but well, I'm not a politician. Actually, I'm a small business owner. I own Wilson Motor Company, which is here on 3rd North and Main Street. Third generation owner of the small business. We've been here for 79 years in the same location and went through the Logan School District, graduated from Logan High School, and then went on and graduated from Utah State University. I'm in my second year, been through 2 sessions in the Utah State Senate. Like you mentioned, District 25, that's soon to become District 2. We passed legislation to redistrict, change the numbers on the district. So just excited to be able to represent. I represent most of Cache County and all of Rich County. And like I said, just an honor and been here my whole life and very proud of my heritage. I had my great-great-grandma and grandpa, the Williamses, that helped settle Logan in 1859. And so very, feel kind of a stewardship trying to help our valley and with the amount of growth that we've had and that we're going to have in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for all that you do for our valley and in Salt Lake and trying to fight for all of us. So thank you for that. My first question I want to ask you is, what is the biggest problem that you think that we as Utahns and we as Americans are facing today, and what is the solution to that problem?
Well, I think right now, and I've seen a number of surveys that come through, and most of my constituents are talking about inflation. Inflation is just hurting all families, food prices, oil and gas prices, and of course, oil and gas and fuel prices affect everybody. They affect our our food prices and transportation needs. So I think inflation right now is really number one, and that's caused by excess spending by the federal government. Inflationary practices that we've had by this administration has just too many dollars chasing too few goods, and it's obviously been a big problem. And then to try and control inflation, now the Fed and the Biden administration is going to raise rates even again. I hear of another expected raise here in October. And I'm in a business where the interest rates really affect us with purchasing of vehicles. People just can't afford, won't be able to afford homes and afford vehicles. So it's a real problem. The articles I've read, I think we're definitely heading into a recession. So inflation's a big deal. And along with that, I get a lot of constituents are worried about the federal overreach. And that's part of the inflationary problems that we've had. And so I think the inflation's the number one thing right now. And we need to do more, obviously, to control the spending. Our deficits are up over 30 trillion now. I mean, that's just an unbelievable amount of money, where we only bring in somewhere around last year we had a record-breaking $4 trillion in money that we were that they collected in the federal government, and they still spent about 7 trillion. So it's really a problem and something that we're dealing with in the state. We are going to have a budget surplus this year. We're projecting somewhere around $1 billion, and it may increase as we get our latest numbers. And the thing we're worried about is we're great that we have the increase in surplus this year, but we are worried about the recession that we think is coming, and we believe that our tax collections for not only sales tax but income taxes will be less. our capital gains taxes were big last year as people were selling properties that had increased in value, and also stock market was really booming, and so we had a lot of capital sales tax or capital taxes that we're collecting. And we think going future, we need to be very, very conservative and very careful with what we do going forward, knowing that we believe our revenues are going to go down. So,
Right. Right. Thank you so much for that response. I don't think you could have said that any better. I mean, inflation is hurting a lot of different people from any age. I mean, right now, like as a 17-year-old high school student, inflation's hurting me because like getting gas for my car and
yeah.
going out to get food with my friends, stuff like that, it's really, really hurting a lot of people. So thank you for that response. Another big problem in not just the federal government, but even in our state is, politicians becoming corrupt and corruption within the governments. I want to ask, what is one way that we can filter out corruption in the state and federal governments?
Yeah, that was great question, Chase. You had a couple of great questions. That's why I don't really claim to be a politician. I'm still a small business owner, and most people here in the Valley, they know me as the Ford dealer, not really the state senator, and that's great, fine with me, because I'm gonna, I decided to get into politics to run. I thought it was going to be an open seat. It turned out not to be an open seat, but I'm very, very proud that I'm just going to get in. I'm going to serve. I'm working extremely hard on trying to represent the people in Cache Valley and Rich County the way that with conservative values, free market systems, smaller, less government. And I got in, and just as a regular business owner, I'm not a lifetime politician. I've never been in before, and I think the thing is, I'm going to get in, I'm going to serve, and then I'm going to get out and let somebody else do it. And I think that's one thing. If we get people, hopefully running for the right reason. I mean, I'm just trying to serve. I honestly, I enjoy. We're doing a lot of good things in the state of Utah. I haven't seen any corruption that I know of in the state of Utah. In Utah politics, I've been there 2 years, and believe me, I'm watching for it, and I'm slowly peeling back, the onion, if you will, to make sure that everything. But I feel I feel very confident right now about the state politics, local politics. There's always concerns about somebody maybe overstepping their bounds, and obviously federally, I think there's a big problem. I think there's a lot of self-serving people in politics back in the national level that we just need to control spending. The pork spending that's going on back in Washington, D.C. is out of control. And I think you open yourself up when politicians back in Washington, D.C. are trying to fund their local projects. And you always worry about people doing projects for companies or institutions that are donating to their campaign. So it is a concern, and something that I'm watching on a state level. And I feel really good. I mean, most the people I have got to know, both on staff, other senators, and both sides of the aisles, have been, so far very good people. I haven't seen anything I would deem as corruption so far in the 2 years I've been serving.
Okay, thank you so much for that response. And I think it's really reassuring to know that there's not that level of corruption in the state government. And because a lot of times anybody that goes into politics, they have the chance of, going for the wrong reasons and becoming corrupt. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about election integrity, because we have the 2022 midterms coming up, which is some may say is the biggest in our country's history. I want to ask, how can we ensure that Utahns are confident when they go and cast their ballot on election day that their vote can be both safe and secure?
Yeah, it's another great question, Chase. And obviously it's a real concern, because the people have got to have confidence, in our system, or the whole system is going to be in trouble. And I've spent a lot of time with Jess Bradfield on a county-wide. I've actually volunteered. I'll be doing a poll watching on election day in November. My wife and I have committed to do that. I think the more I can learn about the process, the better I can maybe look for areas that may be problematic. I feel fairly good about the county and the state. I know there's some issues there that we may need to continue to work on. Last session, we passed a couple different bills to try and help clean up our voter rolls. I, for one, went during the primary. I went and signed up, and I followed my ballot for when I mailed it, when it was counted, and so people can do that. I think is a good way to follow your ballot through the process. I talked with other people that helped, pick up ballots at post offices and different things. We just need to continue to work to close any loopholes that we may have or problems that can be, areas that we could get fraud. I still concerned on a national level. I think there's a lot of states that are still learning how to do mail-in ballots. I'm just concerned about a number of states that aren't to the level of Utah yet, and especially our counties. And so I feel pretty good about Utah, but I still have issues and think there's problems with many states. I'm hoping they're improving because we have to make sure that people feel confident in our ballot system.
Right. I interviewed Representative Mike Peterson a few months back,
Mhm.
and he gave around the same response. I asked him the same question, and he gave around the same response: is that Utah, he feels good with where Utah is going. So I think that's really good for us to know as Utahns. And I can't vote yet, but when I'm able to, I can be assured that my vote will be counted legally. But yeah, you're right. We have to watch for those other states and hope that they can fix things.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you're great, Jay. Like I said, we really do have the gold standard. I really believe. I'm sure there's areas that we can improve on, and I think as I continue to look at different ways, and like I said, being a poll watcher, I think will help me even learn more of the process. Jess Bradfield, I think, is a great job as our county clerk, and he went in with his eyes wide open, and he's made a lot of changes, and I think done a great job at that in that office. I feel very, very comfortable with him, and I'll continue to watch the process to see if there's any areas that we can improve.
all right, awesome. Thank you for volunteering to be a poll watcher too. That I mean, that's just serving in another way for people in the valley. So I appreciate that. And my next question for you is how, for the last little while, I mean, especially the last couple of years, traditional values have kind of been separated from our daily lives. That the traditional values that built this country, that built this state. I want to ask you, how can we try to preserve those traditional values and bring them back?
That's another great question, Chase. It is problematic. One of the reasons why I ran is because of I wanted to our community and family values are so important as we go forward, and they affect so many parts of our community and our life. And I've had people tell me that, boy, Chris, you couldn't have picked a worse time to get into the political arena. And I keep telling them, well, it might be the worst time, but it might be the best time because I am very concerned about our values in our community. And we've got issues in trying to improve our education system and making sure that families, marriage, and country, our civics. We need to make sure we're teaching civics. I was a Senate sponsor of a civics bill that Representative Dan Johnson, who, by the way, does a tremendous job. He had a civics bill that help pass in the Senate to try and teach our kids the importance of family and our country and God, and our Constitution is very important, and the sacrifices of our founding fathers and founding mothers and their family, and all the many Americans that have died over the years, that protecting the freedoms that we so richly enjoy. And I think a lot of people get away from the importance of our country and those who are sacrificed for us. And I think we get back, that'll definitely will help. But it's definitely sad when I hear people, condemn our country, and we're still the greatest country in the world. And there's a reason why, unfortunately, our borders are open and we have, millions of people trying to get in this country. I mean, it's still the greatest country in the world, and boy, we've got to do things to try and improve our immigration policy is just horrific right now. But back to your question, like I said, very important, uh, great question, and doing all we can. And I still believe that that's part of also a problem we've got with right now with social media and our youth. And you look at mental illness and mental health issues. I've been a big proponent in making sure that we're providing the resources for our kids, for teachers and education, and for parents, working on a couple of things right now to try and help with mental health issues that we're having. And I'm not so sure that's not part of social media and the attacking, and people are not grateful for our wonderful community that we live in, and wonderful state and our country that stands for so much in our world. Or so.
Right. Thank you so much for that response. You said that really well. And I just hope that we can get to the point again where people start valuing the traditional values again. Like I'm glad to live here in Utah because I feel like a lot of people still do. But other places, it's very hard to find people that care about, things you listed: country, family, God, and stuff like that. So, I mean, I just hope and pray that we can get back to that point all around our country. I just have one more question for you. And it is, what advice do you have to someone who loves our country? They love everything about it, and they want to fight for the same things that you and I want to fight for, and bring back traditional values and things like that. But they fear speaking up because they fear that they will be they will receive backlash or hate for what they believe.
It's a great question, Chase, and a big problem. I mean, right now we got sides that are trying to silence people by bullying or threatening. I mean, it's unbelievable where this country is in many areas when somebody speaks up, and everybody has that's the freedoms that we enjoy to their opinion. But when we try and silence and belittle, and I look at some of our campuses across this country and what we're doing for free speech when people have brought people in, and it's just a huge problem. But I would tell the number one thing is, especially young people, is first register to vote and get involved with what is what's important to you. And I think if teenagers obviously get involved, they get registered to vote, and then they get involved with whichever party they want to be a part of. The Republican Party is welcoming young people that aren't afraid, because we know what it's like in our campuses, and even probably in some of the high schools too, where if you stand up and what you believe in, especially with God, country, and your religion and your family and those things, and in a lot of places those aren't popular, and so you do have to stand up. And I mean, I've seen on news when people stand up and they've been getting beat up, and we've got to back our our police officers, and public safety has got to be a big part of what we want to make sure and protect people's liberties and their rights to free speech and freedom of religion and all those things. And back to what you mentioned before, we need to get back to those things that made our communities, our families, and our country great again. But it's a great point, Chase, and we're looking at that. A couple senators and myself are looking at some issues that we've had with free speech on campuses, and it's a problem, and one that we've talked about. And boy, I hope the high schools aren't as bad as the campuses. I don't think they are, but there's still a big problem on our Logan at our campuses for lashing out, bullying, and that's where I think we got a huge problem with mental health issues that are just getting worse and worse. And it's concerning and a problem, but we got to continue to keep fighting at it. There's not going to be one simple solution, but it's not something we got to continue to look at and we can't abandon. So,
Right. A lot of times people like my friends or just random people here and there will be like, why do you even care about politics? Why are you even doing this? You're so young. It doesn't even, it's irrelevant to you. And I just like to say to them, I'm like, well, I'm and everyone else my age, we're the next generation, we're the next people up. And so why not get involved now and be educated so that
yeah, yeah,
we can be the next leaders of this nation. And so
yeah. Yeah, and you're so right. And voting, I mean, you think we're only one vote. I was involved uh, with an election a few years ago where one vote made the difference. And so every vote does count and it does matter. And being involved with the party, becoming, involved with your precincts and volunteering, is just, it's very important. Um, that your voice matters, your participation matters, and why let someone else decide for you what your future is? And the youth are very, very important. And my first interest in politics started when I was a junior in high school when I went to Boise State. Boise State up here was a great program at the time. The American Legion posts and it's a great program. I think something else we need to get back where a junior in high school, between our junior senior year, we went up and we had 500 young men up here at Utah State that were learning about local and county and city and state politics. And it kind of sparked an interest. And I was fortunate enough to run for Boys Nation and went back a few weeks later, a month later, back to Washington, D.C. and spent 2 weeks back there learning about national politics. And I got involved right then. I never missed, to this point, I've never missed a presidential election. I've missed very, very few other elections, if any. But I know how important it is to be involved. And Chase, having this podcast is a great thing. I'm so excited that you're doing this and hopefully getting your fellow teenagers involved, because when you look at the demographics, I mean, that 20 to 35-year-old demographics, if they wanted to control with all their voting, they could pretty well control who the candidates are and who gets elected if they would just get involved. So they could have a strong vote.
right. All right. Well, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for all your wonderful responses, and thank you for taking time to sit down with me, a high school student and taking time out of your very busy schedule. So thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Chase, thank you. And anytime, you've got my email, and I appreciate this opportunity, and keep up the good work. And I love the flag you've got behind you, and that's where we need to get back to our country and family and our God and country and freedom. So thank you.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.